Hello, friends. In the series of learning computer organization and design, today we will discuss about the instruction cycle in detail. So, let's have the agenda of this entire chapter first. Then, we will begin with understanding the instruction cycle in more detail. So, as we know that we have already covered with all these portions in the previous lecture series, right? So the basic point here is that we are considering here a basic computer which is having the configuration 4096 cross 16. Now what does this configuration actually means? This is very important to understand because even in the instruction cycle this entire configuration will play a vital role. So this by 4096 I simply means the it is the size of my RAM or the main memory. And 16 is nothing but the size of each word or the data which is stored in the RAM. So this is what I need to understand before actually analyzing what is the instruction cycle. So we have already covered the meaning of what is instruction code and what are the various types of the computer registers which we are using in the basic computer. Same, we have also learned the common bus system in context of the basic computer. Also, we have described three different types of the computer instructions in context of this basic computer only. And also in the previous lecture, we have described about the timing and the control unit. So today's topic is very important because without instruction, without understanding the instruction or the cycle of the instruction, it is very hard for the processor to process with the instruction. So let's start understanding it in more detail. So to begin with, what is an instruction, right? So basically what happens is that every time a user enters the program, means whenever we want or we expect some kind of output from the machine, it is always been given to the machine in the form of a program. So program is nothing but a sequence of the instructions, right? So some sort of instructions been there which we will be storing in the memory. Now the point here is that these instructions which are being given to the memory are not executed in one go. No, it's not that procedure. It always been segmented into various parts. Okay, so the point here is that one instruction which has been given to the system in the form of program is actually having various sub portions or the sub parts. Now the point is that each and every instruction will have to execute its first part, only then it can lead to the second part, third, fourth, and fifth. Means this is how this entire instruction will execute. Okay, and if one instruction is having, let's suppose, 5 or n number of parts, and after performing those all n parts, only then I could say that that particular instruction is executed. Okay, so that is why it is important to understand that each instruction is subdivided into the sequence of the subcycles or the phases. Now is the second point, why we are calling this topic as an instruction cycle, right? Now again I will continue with this particular example only. After performing the fifth sub portion of the instruction, means when I am done with the instruction, now what will happen after that? The second instruction has to start. Now the second instruction will again start processing from the very first sub component of that particular instruction. Got it? Means every instruction is been divided into certain number of phases, right? Once one phase is complete, or the second, or those all phases are complete for the instruction, for the second instruction we have to start from the very first phase. So this is what, that is why this cycle keeps on going, because once your machine is turned on, your machine will always keep on executing the data, executing the processes, right, at the back end also, even if you are aware or not. So that is why we call this entire topic as an the instruction cycle. So let's understand about these various phases or the sub cycles that each and every instruction is having, right? So within the basic computer, we are categorizing this one machine instruction into four subcategories, or the four sub phases, you could say. The very first one is the fetching phase, right? When we simply have to fetch the instruction from the memory, like when I have to analyze that where exactly in the memory the instruction is present, right? Then second is there when I will start with the decoding of that particular instruction, when I will have to understand the meaning of each and every bit which has been provided within the instruction, like the opcode bits and the mode bit kind of thing. Then third is the read instruction, right? So I have to read the instruction also. In order to read the data, if you remember this effective address, I should be very much aware of where is the effective address of the memory. Effective address, if you remember, we have studied it in the case of direct and indirect addressing, right? So, in which way we are going to address the instruction, that will purely depend upon its effective address. Means the value of bit I, mode bit I. If it is 0, it is direct. If it is 1, it is going to be indirect. Then after that, after understanding the fetch phase, the decode phase, and the read phase, now is the last point when we have to start with the execution of that instruction. Whatsoever we have to do, whatever the processing that instruction is demanding, in the fourth or in the last phase, we have to do that. And after performing all these four phases, we will again begin with the next instruction and start with the fetch phase, decode, read, and execute. And it will keep on like this. So that's why this cycle of the loop will keep on going as soon as your machine is powered on. So that is why we call this instruction as a instruction cycle. Now, it is very important to understand that every different processor has its own set of the instruction cycles. So, what we are learning here is only in context of the basic computer. So, that's why we are restricted to fetch phase, decode, execute, and read phase only. The idea is that for every processor, means these terminology will remain the same. Every processor has to fetch the instruction, to decode the instruction, to read the instruction, and to execute it. But the only difference is that the time it takes or the clock cycles it requires to perform the fetch phase or the decode phase. So that is where the basic difference will lie. Now let's understand about these two phases in more detail, like how the fetching will taking place and how the decode will take place. So here is the point. It is very important to understand the fetch phase because it will build the foundation of how exactly the entire instructions are being executed within the machine, right? So let's understand that. So the point is, I will start it with a scenario, right? So let's suppose this is the memory array consisting of some sort of memory addresses being there. So let's suppose it starts with the execution 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on up to 100, 101, and so on up to, let's suppose 40965. The size I am taking the same. Now, the point is that if at the single point of time, this particular instruction which is present at 0th place is been executing, okay? So, every time we know that there is a program counter being there. If at present we are working with this 0th number of the instruction we are executing, we are working with its all the phases, the program counter will hold the address of the next instruction. Okay. Now the reason why I am talking about the program counter here is that because we always start from the program counter, means the fetch phase will have to deal with this program counter. The reason is that the program counter is loaded with the address of the first instruction in the program. So definitely. So even if the system has not started with the execution of the program, okay, every time the address of the instruction which is to be executed in the very next go, okay, will always be present in the program counter. So that's why every time the fetch phase starts from the program counter. And what we need to understand here is that the program counter, let's suppose, is holding this value 1. What I need to know, I don't want the program counter. Actually, I want to transfer the values of the program counter to the address register. Because ultimately, my system in the instruction register, it will be having 0 to 11 bits for the address register. Okay, so I need to transfer the program counter's value into this address register. So this is what I need to perform, and this entire thing will perform at the T naught clock pulse. So this is what is important to understand. Now, before beginning with these, there is one more point, because in the case of the control unit, let me repeat the topic here again: timing and control, because each and every topic is interlinked with each other. So it's important to understand here. We were using a sequence counter, which was of size 4 cross 16 decoders, right? So my point here is that before T naught, the sequence counter should be 0. Okay. Whenever the T naught clock pulse will arrive, T1, T2, or so on, up to the execution part, I have to increment the value of sequence counter by 1. This is what I need not to forget. Okay. So this is what has been written here. The sequence counter is cleared to 0, providing a decoding timing signal this. Now, after each clock pulse, the sequence counter is now to be incremented by 1, so that the timing signals go through the sequences like T0, T1, T2, and so on and so forth. So what is the next point here? When the T0 clock is active, so I know that T1 would not be active, same as with the T2. But whenever I will be activating the value of this second particular T1 clock pulse, then T0 will not be active or T2 will not be active. So point is very much clear or understandable. Like the timing clock pulse, these are the clock signals only. So at a time, only one clock pulse can be active. So if I am succeeded in transferring the data of program counter to the address register, now what I need to know is I have to refer to this memory address of the address register. I have to refer to the memory portion, means this is the memory of this address register 1. So this is how I could represent it. I need to refer to its memory location, and then whatsoever the data present here at this memory, I need to transfer it to the instruction register. Okay. So as soon as now what is happening here? One is this process is happening. Second is that now this program counter's address is already been used. So now what I need to know is I need to increment the value of this program counter by 1, so that it should be having the address of the next instruction. Okay, because program counter has the facility to store the address of the next instruction. So right now we are present executing this instruction, so definitely it will be holding the address of the next instruction. So we are assuming that these instructions are being executed in a serial manner, right? That's why we are incrementing the value of program counter by 1 side by side. So when the T1 clock pulse is active, at this point of time, two different operations will take place. One is the the memory address of the address register has been taken into the instruction register, and the second is that the value of program counter is to be incremented by 1. So these two clock cycles will lead for the fetching of the data. Then after that, now what has been there? The instruction is fetched from the memory to instruction register, and program counter is also incremented. Now is the second point when I have to decode this instruction. So now how the decoding will take place? It will take place at the another clock signal, that is T2, let's suppose. So I need to know the meaning of which decoder is active, because in the instruction register 12, 13, and 14 bits are there, which are nothing but the opcode bits, right? So opcode bits need to be decoded, then the address register need to be decoded, then these mode bits need to be decoded, then I will be performing this decoding option. So let's understand about this fetch and fetch phase at T0 and T1 clock pulse in more detail. So here is the example. Example is, I think you are very much familiar with this diagram. Now before understanding it, let me show you this diagram. This is the common bus system of a basic computer. We have already learned it in more detail, right? So the reason behind I am showing you this diagram is that when I explained you this diagram, I had simply said that the data which the resistor which has to transfer the data will get the value here as per the function table, right? And then will be loaded in its data in this common bus system, and the one who has the load bit equals to 1 will be there to receive the data. So this is what I was explaining. So now let's understand this entire logic through this T0 and T1 clock pulse. So my point here is that we have already studied the fetching phase, like what will happen in case of fetch phase at T0 clock pulse will active. The program counter will be responsible for shifting its data, transferring its data to the address register, right? So let's understand that this is a common bus system. We have only used the registers which we need for this instruction only. That's why we have not designed the complete diagram. Now when T naught is active, so it will be working like this. So this T naught is going into this particular S1, and rest all values for T naught are 00. So it is 010. 010 is nothing but the second clock line or the decimal value. So means the program counter's contents are now been placed in this particular common bus system. Now who is ready to take the data? So let's understand that also. This T naught is active here in this case. This is the OR gate. So any one value will lead this load equals to 1, right? So this particular load bit is active now. So this address register is now has the capability to receive the data. So this is how this T naught clock pulse will work. Similarly, what will happen when the T1 clock pulse is to be activated? So when the T1 is active, T0 will not active for sure. So this value is becoming 0. T1 is active for this value, for this value, for these three. Means S0, S1 and S3 are 000, right? Sorry, 111. It means the seventh number bit means this memory value, some address. Memory will refer the address, right? So this data has been taken. See, I have to take the memory or value of the address register and place it in the IR register, and in the meantime program counter should also be incremented. So this data of the memory unit is being placed here in this memory in this common bus system. Now who is ready to receive the data? The T1 is active. Here, memory will read the data. Definitely, memory can read its own data. Then in this particular value and this last value. So the load bit is also 1. So load bit will take the data in case of instruction register. Similarly, if we look at the program counter's values increment value means it will get incremented by default, and the read operation in the memory will also take place. So ultimately, this particular T1 clock cycle is leading me for the completion of the fetch phase. I hope that you have understood this idea in more detail. Similarly, T2, T3, T4 and T5 will take place until the execution of the entire instruction is taking place. So now, in the last, I would like to sum up with this instruction cycle, right? So let's understand that because it plays again a vital role. So this is the entire instruction cycle, the flow chart of that, how the instruction will start. So let's understand that. So it will start with the sequence counter value equals to 0 because there is no such timing signal, because there is no time timing signal existing. So that's why we are simply saying the value of sequence counter is equals to 0. So first we'll start from here. When the T naught will active, fetching of data will take place. Okay. So what will happen? The program counter will shift its data to the address register. Okay, we have already learned that. And after doing this, now the address register is having some value. So we will go to the memory location of that address register and place the entire data into the instruction register. And in the meantime, we will also increment the value of program counter by 1. So both T0 and T1 are responsible for performing the fetching of the data. Now after fetching the data, then T2 will arrive, which will lead me for the decode of the data. Now how the decoding of the data will take place? I have to decode the entire instruction. Like if the 0 to 11 bits are there, which are depicting the address of the instruction, then 12, 13 and 14 bits are there, which are nothing but the opcode bits, and the 15th bit is there, which is the mode bit. Means I need to decode the meaning. If it is 0, it is 1 I bit. If the opcode bit is 0000001, something like that, accordingly D0 to D7 registers will get active, right? So this decode will take place here. After doing that, now what is going to happen? See, this point is very important. Now we have to read the data. Okay, reading will take place here. In certain cases, both decode and read can also take place together. So there is no hard and fast rule that it can happen. Okay. Now the point is that when we are decoding the operation for the instruction registers with the bit 12, 13 and 14, we know that the values can be 000, 001 and so on up to 111. Means D0, D1, so on up to D7 need to be active. So if we remember the different types of the instructions which are existing, so there were three types of instructions. One was the memory reference, then was the register reference, and the last was there the input output reference. How I can signify these two? First is that if it is memory reference, the value of D0 to D6 will be active, and if it is a register or input output reference, D7 should be active. Along with that, the mode bit I should be 0 in case of register and I should be 1 in case of the input output reference, right? So we point here is that we are about to read the data. See, we are considering here the D7 register because it will help me in deciding whether we have picked the instruction is of type memory reference or of input or the register reference. So if the D7 value is active, means if the D7 value is equals to 1, if D7 is 111, means the value here in the opcode is 111. It means that either it is a register reference instruction or it is the input output. See, if the D7 is equals to 1, it means either it is the register reference or it is input output reference. So what I need to know ahead, which one among this is there, then I will use the value of I, the mode bit. If the mode bit is equals to 0, for D7 is equals to 1, then it is a register reference instruction. In the T3 clock pulse, after T2, in the T3 clock pulse, I have to execute the register reference instruction and to clear the counter to 0. Why? Because after execution is complete, then I need to go to this part and again have to start with the new instruction. But if the value of I is equals to 1, then it depicts it is an input output reference instruction. So this we need to execute the input output instruction and we need to clear the value of sequence counter to 0 and then again have to start with the first part. If the value of D7 is equals to 0, means D7 is not having the value activated, it means that it is either from D0 to D6 only, then definitely it is a memory reference instruction. Now under the memory reference instruction also, now I need to determine which type of memory reference, whether it is direct or indirect. If I value is equals to 0, it is a direct instruction, right? If it is 1, then it is indirect. So if the value is a 0 here, means if it is a direct memory instruction, then T3, I can say nothing will happen, or I have to start with the execution here also. I can do that. I can start the execution process, right, of my instruction, or I will be doing it at the T4 level. Means among this T3 or T4, I can start with the execution part from the T3. It may go till T4, T5, T6 also. But if the value of I is equals to 1, then at the T3, means now indirect is what? It indirect says address of memory's address register will be the effective address. So that's why I need to go to the address part of the address register in order to get the effective address. Once I will get the effective address, then at the T4 clock cycle, I will execute the memory reference instruction and clear the counter to 0, and then I will again start with the proceeding part. So this instruction cycle is very important to understand. I hope that you have understood this idea, and thank you so much for joining the session.